What'd you say, Carol? I can't hear you. Are you talking? Are you unmuted? Are you unmuted? Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you. I like your hair.
Sorry, what did you say?
I like your hair.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I just went back to brown today. So good to see you, everybody. Hello, Casey. Hello, Carol. Hello, Chris. Good to see
Hi,
you.
Max.
Hello, my friend. Okay, friends, good to have you here. Welcome. It's going to be an interesting night. I've just got a couple of little notes and then we just kind of talk. And so if you haven't been here before, this is what we do here. We just have a conversation. I facilitate a conversation. What is happening for this character, whatever this character Max is that he's brunette again. But other than that, my development or whatever is happening with my spiritual journey is that what we're sharing. And these are called the continual search sessions because it is all about the continual search. And what I have really come to realize through, who knows, maybe it's not even really me that's realizing it. It's just so obvious to me now about how it's a constant reshifting, changing, searching to try to get you somewhere where you think you should be. And that is really what duality is all about. Duality is all about this idea that there's something where you need to be and there's somewhere where you are. So you need to get there on some level. You need to be better, you need to be thinner, you need to be more successful, you need to control more, whatever it happens to be. And that is the definition of duality. And duality is something that we unconsciously are caught up in all the time. We're unconsciously caught up in duality at all times. And so tonight we're going to be talking about this experience of non-duality or duality, right? So sometimes it's the easiest way to start a conversation is to show what it isn't and what it is, right? So I've got a couple of notes here that I actually want to start with. But before we start doing that, let's just take a few deep breaths and close our eyes. Just allowing yourself to just be where you are. Okay, take a deep breath. Welcome, iPhone, who came in. Good to see you, iPhone. All right, so where do I want to start today? I've kind of touched on this for a second before, but you know, one thing that's really has been dawning on me a lot is about how duality lives in relativity, right? So relativity means that everything is relative to something else, like in duality, right? So you're either rich or you're poor. You either make it or you are a failure. You're either enlightened or you're asleep, right? You're either asleep or you're awake, whatever it happens to be. But it's the relative situation of how the mind works is insidious, right? The brain, the mind and the brain is a computer, and it's always comparing, right? It's always comparing what's hot, what's cold. Am I there yet? Am I not there yet? Everything that you think about in your life is relative. It's all relative to something else. I hope that makes sense. So everything's relative to something else. So what's the opposite of relative, even though there's no duality, that there's the relativity and there is absolute. Absolute is absolute. There's no beginning, there's no end. It's not in time, it's not out of time. It is all there is. It's the absolute. It's the absolute. And so what the separated self does, it starts to create these it confuses what's relative with what's absolute, right? So
Yeah.
you start thinking, okay, this and this and this and this, that means that this is the absolute truth. That means that this is the way it is. People are like this. Spirit is like this. I am like this, ultimately. Oh, hi, Girl Rush. So the separated self gets confused on some level. It's not confused, but it cannot really experience the absolute. So it's always trying to make what its opinion is the absolute truth, right? So, Casey, are you driving a motorcycle right now?
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Trying to figure out how to move. I'm using my phone for the first time. I am out of state, so
Oh, if you just touch the phone, usually the little microphone will come up and then you can hit it.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
There you go.
thank you.
There you go. So everything is relative, everything's relative to everything else. So, but the separated self starts to make the absolute out of the relative, if this makes any sense at all. So, but the absolute is the absolute. It is what we might call the truth. It is all that there is. There was no beginning to absolute. There is no end to absolute. There's nowhere where it is not. You might say it's called God, right? So as the Course in Miracles would say, is that there is nowhere where God is not. There's nowhere where you end and God begins. There's nowhere God ends and you begin. This is pointers towards absoluteness, the absoluteness of it all, right? So when we start to get into this kind of figuring it out and understanding, it's all in the relative. It's all in the relative. Like now I know something I didn't know before, right? Now the character is more educated than he was before. There's nothing wrong with any of that. I'm just laying a groundwork for our talk today. So there's relative and there's absolute. Now, I was thinking about this in terms of time, because there is no time. Time is not real. In the Course in Miracles, it says time is a teaching tool, but time is not real. It's a concept, and it is definitely of the separated self. That's for sure. That's for sure. But I thought to myself, I was thinking this morning, I was writing a few things down. Just think about this for a moment, or just let it sit, and then we're just going to open it up to everyone to speak. Where does the future start?
Now.
And where does the past end? Where does the past end? And where does the future start? This is not a test. We're not teaching here. We're not testing anyone. But that contemplation of that is a very interesting thing if you think about it, or you just contemplate it for a second, because the separated self is always obsessed with the future or with the past. But where is the future? It's always a story. There's a story going on somewhere in the separated self about, is it in 5 minutes or is it when this happens? There's no like clear marker, right? There's no clear marker, because as they always say, the goalpost keeps changing all the time, right? The goalpost changes. So if you didn't get the career that you wanted, then you're going to change it for the future to change in another way. And then there's going to be another thing. So the goalpost keeps changing. Once you get there, then it's not enough, or it has to be. Now, the past is a really interesting thing, because when did the past end? Or did it end?
Did it.
Or
Right.
does it end? Right? So this that we're talking about tonight is something that cannot be explained, it can't be learned, but it can be pointed to. It can definitely be pointed to. So we're just going to open up to whatever anyone has to say. No, there's no silly questions. There's no, it's all, everything is good, whatever we share here, because there is no good or bad, right? So what is anyone's thoughts that wants to speak up, or you don't have to? Oh my God, I'm sick of my story. Why don't you come on and talk about it? You don't have to.
I had a thought, Max.
Go ahead, Case.
It would seem that because when you first posed that question, I was like, well, it would, I was thinking about it, contemplating it, and the answer seems now. The past ends now. The future starts now. So that tells me that there's only now, because now. So
that's where
2
the
seconds from
experience
now,
seems to happen.
it's still now.
Yep. Now let me just say this. But what is experiencing the now? The relative self?
The isness of the truth.
Yeah, that can happen. For sure. I didn't mean to cut you off. I think you were going to say
That's totally fine. And the same thing with when you first said the question, I cracked up laughing, and then I was wrapping my mind around it. That's me wrapping my mind around it, and then and then like the truth of the answer came, or what I said, and then when you said the next thing, it was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna mute myself because I'm gonna crack up laughing.
It's all good.
Yep.
As people have said before, and even I don't know if you saw this, Casey, but on the comments on YouTube, someone said, "I love Casey's laugh too." So it'll, your laugh is a star. We love that. We love that.
Thanks.
We love it. Yeah. Listen, there's no right or wrong. I'm here all night. We can talk all night, whatever it happens to be. So
Cool. Interesting. Today I started the day off and I guess you could say I was rubbed the wrong way. I knew there was something amiss. And instead of assuming my own viewpoint, I assumed the viewpoint of another, which at that moment in time, it was hard for me to grant them beingness because I was opposed to them. But when I assumed their beingness, then things just smoothed out and all the problems were gone. But it was like I created those problems,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that speaks to that thing about everything's relative.
Yeah.
Everything's relative. So you are in relationship to that being and that situation, but at the same time, you can choose to have the relativity from their point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can definitely tell when there's flow or when there's resistance. And kind of like, for lack of a better word, a tweakingness of, am I in the flow or I'm in the resisting?
That's how it's experienced a lot. Right. Go ahead. Keep on.
And then after I stopped thinking about it, you know what I mean? Then it just kind of flowed. And I was just, whatever happens, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. And everything, it turned into a perfect day. It was just one of those things again.
It's one of those things.
Yeah.
And as you know, from what I'm experiencing is that you would just end up going, well, that's what seems to be happening.
Yes.
Okay,
And
well,
this,
that's what's happening.
right,
Mhm.
right. No, not to tie into my story, not to tie in with who's right or who's wrong, who's just now.
Mhm.
This feels better now. Oh, you know, and then the resistance is gone, and what was there is no longer there because you're there now.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then
Yep.
there, and then we have to ask, who is there now? Which came back to what I said earlier.
Right. Well, when I
Mhm.
figure that out, I'll get back to you.
There's no figuring this out. Listen, everyone, there's no figuring this out. What we're doing here, what we're kind of investigating here, there's no figuring it out. There's no getting the right answer, because the only thing that gets the answer or understands is the separated self,
You're right. Yep.
right?
I totally agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What I would,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, you're just there in the moment. I was just there in the moment, there in the moment, there in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of a thinkingness, there was like beingness, like be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
sorry.
Funny, Carol. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right. Right. So this is all pointing in that direction, pointing in this direction of the B, and then I have to ask you, because you know, I've really let go so much of my character having an experience of anything and just allowing an experience to happen. So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, a lot of spiritual teachings will say surrender, let go, you know, all of that stuff. And which is fine, no problem with that. But what the self is trying to let go of the self. And it doesn't ever want to do that, really. It doesn't want to let go of the past. It doesn't want to let go of its aspiration for the future. It wants to keep you in this hamster wheel of a very, very tight rein of this circle, this guy that I was saying this in another, I think last night in my expansion group. This guy that really made me go, oh my God, a few months ago when I found him. He talks about being in the closed loop of being the self. So the self just keeps going around, around and round and round and round inside of
It,
itself. Mm-hmm.
it perpetuates itself,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
creates itself.
And then and then it hates itself and it wants to get away from itself.
And it can't do neither.
Can't do either.
The perfect trap. It's insidious.
Yes, exactly.
Insidious.
Oh my God, I know that. What's insidious?
Insidious, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Girl Rush said, "Oh my God, I'm sick of my story." So the the separated self gets sick of the story. It can. It can. Many times it doesn't get sick of the story because it just thinks that that's just the way it is. That's just the way life is. So, you know, life sucks. You're born, you live, then you die. Life sucks, whatever happens to be. So there's pointers to this. And when it starts to get sick of it, then there's a little, as the Course of Miracles say, a little willingness to be like, crack the, you know, I always think about now that I'm, you know, I read it many years ago, that Carlos Castaneda book, the crack in the cosmic egg, if anyone's ever read that, classic. And this is kind of what he's talking about here. There's a crack, there's a little bit of a like, oh, the light's coming through now. because you get away from being like oh, that's so funny. The egg is like an oval or a round shape, and it's over and over and over. And then all of a sudden, when the self starts to get sick of it, metaphorically, a crack starts to happen. And that crack happening is something you can't explain. It's just an energetic experience thing. And a lot of times that when that crack starts to happen, you start to go, it's right here. It's right here. It's so obvious. It's right in front of my fucking nose. It's right here all the time, all the time. Yeah. I was thinking about that today when I was in the park, and I was looking, and I was just walking around, and I was like, watching all of these baseball games, which was just charming and fun. And I was watching it, and I was just thinking to myself, this takes a little bit of explanation, but I was watching these kids being coached in Little League, and I was not a sports kid, but as I was watching it, I thought to myself, oh my God, how fun, how great is that? How fun is that throwing a ball and da 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 da. I thought to myself, everything is relative, because before I'd be like, oh no. Now I have a whole different, something's changed. And so something's changed where I can just see it happening, and I see the joy in it, and I see the love in it, and I see the competition in it. I see, you can just like feel it right there. Whereas the separated self goes, well, that's not my thing. Right. So it was like, it wasn't me observing it. It was just an observation of these coaches with these kids and helping them. And it was really fun and interesting. And I thought, wow, that's a very, very different allowing it to be without my story being put on it. And then my story came up. Then my story came up and said, well, you used to not be like that, and blah, blah, blah. And then the story started happening.
It tries to weasel its way in.
Yes, it does. And then what happens is, I mean, I didn't go this far, but I was like, I can feel it. I'm like, no, there's no story going on here. I'm not interested in the story. I just want to be in the moment. And so, but what if I would have kept entertaining that story? I'm trying to think of what would have happened. I guess it would have, my separated self, might have gone down this line, like, oh, why didn't you know that when you were a kid? Because if you knew that when you were a kid, you wouldn't have wasted all this time. You could have had fun when you were a kid, and instead you were afraid of it. And because you're afraid of it, you're a stupid person. Da, 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 da. But I didn't do that. I'm just imagining that right now. But that's what the story in the egoic separated mind does. And then it's like, you're never good enough. It's never good. You can't just be like, there's baseball practice happening and there's joy there. Because there's always something that's like, oh, I just had this like, wow, when I was a kid, that didn't happen for me. But I stopped it there. And I was just like, there was joy in that moment of watching that thing. And there was a really cute coach too.
That helped.
That helped. That helped. That helped. And I was like, ooh. I'm like, I want to play baseball.
I'll be your catcher.
That was so funny.
That's awesome.
But, this is like, kind of pointing to what we're talking about on some level, and it's really, this is what's happening right now. Boom, there it is. And it threatened to, my story about myself threatened to pull me out of it. But I was like, oh, I used to do that. No, I'm just going to stay in the joy of what's going on right now, because it's all joyful. It's all joyful. Yeah. Somebody just put something in chat. Great example. Yeah.
It makes me think like a throwback to when you, or for me, a throwback to when I was a kid, like 3 or something, before I knew what I liked and what I didn't like and everything. I'd see something and I would just be caught up in it,
Uh-huh.
Don't know
Uh-huh.
what a star is, a flower, just, just being in the wonderment of the moment, you're there and it's like glorious.
Yes. A lot of this, what this character is going through, is very much like coming all the way back to when I was a little tiny kid. And then there's that phrase, you never lost it. It's never been gone. It's always been there on some level. So it's always coming back. And then it makes total sense because the separated self starts to really be created, right, Casey and everyone? After about, 2 or 3 years old, then the separated self starts to really start happening, right? But so much of what this process that I'm going through, I think about it often. This is like when I used to go and look at the sky. This is like when I used to pet the dog. This is like when and you would allow the thing to be the thing in the moment and it didn't matter. Even when I had insanity in my fucking family, it was insane when I was very young. And even then it was just like, oh, there's chaos. Oh, there's insanity. Okay. It wasn't until later on that I kind of learned that was not good. That's not good.
Right.
Family shouldn't be like that. Mother shouldn't be an alcoholic. Da, 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 da. So your mother shouldn't kidnap you. And I was like, oh, okay. But then there's a story about that, right?
Right.
But as you're like young, you're just like, that's the way it is. And there's a
Yeah.
story. Not saying that any of that's good or bad or indifferent. It's just nothing is, I'll come back to the Shakespeare quote over and over and over. Nothing is either good or bad.
Thinking makes it so.
But thinking makes it so. And who is thinking? The separated self is thinking.
Yeah, I'm not thinking.
No, there's no thinking. There is no thinking really happening, really.
Yeah.
It's all an illusion.
Yeah.
It's all an illusion. Like saying that 99% of the thoughts that are going through your head are false. They're not true. They're not true. And now I'm at the point like every thought you have in your head is everyone. It's not true because it's all colored through the lens of the separated self.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. Phone is blowing up. Stop. Okay.
Max, I saw one of the videos that you posted on YouTube from, what's it called? Insta-timer or timer?
Insight timer. Insight timer.
Yeah. It was good. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Thanks. Yeah, I need to actually film some of those with a real camera instead of that. But yeah, no, that was the one I did the other day about the meaning of life. And then there was one before about oh God, what was it last week? I don't remember. You said a really great comment on that one, I think.
Yeah, that was the one I watched. In the meaning of life, I started in on that, and then I realized what time and day it was, and I was like, oh, if I figured out my phone, I can get on the call, and all. I didn't listen to my story of I need my laptop or whatever. I was like, I'm either there or I'm not.
That's right.
We try and see what happens. I'm gonna see it because I'm gonna. The replay is always there. You know what I mean? So
Yep,
it is
for
what
sure.
it is.
Is what it is. Yeah, that one was the one about more insights about beliefs. I think that's the one that you commented on about beliefs.
Yeah. And then after that, it was like I started questioning things and not. I don't mean it like a judgmental thing, but like an observation. And going, oh, like there's a shift happening. Yeah. And
right.
I was watching part of it and I was just cracking up laughing. It's like I don't even know why I was laughing. I was just enjoying it so much. It was like,
Well, laughter is what comes up with this stuff. When it starts, it's all about resonating. It's not about understanding. There's a resonance that happens, and then you're just like, "Oh my God, that's so funny." It
that
is
is a
so funny.
that's a perfect explanation. That's a perfect explanation of it. I can't think of it. Yeah,
It's a resonance. It's not an understanding. There's something that hits. That's kind of like a funny bone that you
that's
go,
exactly it. That's
"Oh my God." That's why I'm always like saying, it's so obvious. It's so stupid. It's so obvious. It's right in front of you. It's right there. And when you have the resonance with what we're talking about, you say, "Oh yeah." But it's even not even you. It's like a laughter that comes from this kind of universal place, which is so beautiful. So,
yeah,
and it's very unconditional. It's all unconditional. Which I
yeah, yeah, yeah. I had some preconceived ideas about certain people that looked a certain way, or I try to I try to be fair, and but I came across somebody that was they were what they were, and and my old prejudices just flew out the window, and I was just taken in the moment, and it was just it was just wow, like like yeah,
yeah,
like
that whole
as if a burden is lifted off you, like
yeah.
yeah.
This is about allowing everything. This is about
Yes.
allowing everything.
Yes.
You do not deny anything because
Yes.
the self is the only thing that denies, right? So you just allow it all.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
it becomes so clear how when you see it, I heard you, Carol, and then it can become so clear how when you see other people denying or judging other people, it gets like, they really do think that that's real, what they're doing right now. It's not real at all. It's not real at all. That's cool, Casey. That's cool. Yeah, because it's all about allowing it all. It just allows it,
Yes.
but it's not you that's allowing it. Life is just fucking happening. This person's doing what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. It
But
has
your
nothing.
story has a lot to do with they shouldn't be doing like that, and they should be like this. They should be like me or my religion or
Yeah.
whatever
Whatever
happens
the
usually.
story happens to be. So it's
Mhm.
when you allow everything, then everything is when you allow everything, you quote unquote the separated self is not there
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you're
of course.
allowing everything. So it's there's the illusion that you're more there, but you're really not because
Right.
you're not who you thought you were.
Mm-mm. Well, there's just consciousness is a weird word anyway, but there's
Right.
just what's happening right there in front of you, or
Right.
it's just happening. You're just experiencing it. Carol, what did you want to say? Sorry, I cut you off.
oh, no, it's all right. My mom passed, and so I've been having to do the grocery shopping and doing it online, and it's been really quite the task to try and figure out different meals for my dad. But the most amazing thing has been happening lately. It's like I don't know that he would have ever tried half the stuff that I've been making for him with my mom here. The other day when I was ordering groceries, I went ahead and then they said that there were like 7 different substitutions, and I'm like, oh my God, so of course the story starts running, right? Oh, there's going to be the wrong things and he's not going to be able to eat it, and I'm yeah. Well, and then I'm saying this is just going to be horrible. It's just they're just the wrong stuff. Long story short, the substitutions that were made weren't so tragic. um I told my dad, you know, we just couldn't get it. They didn't have the stuff at the store. They ran out. So let's try something different. And he's like, okay. I just about fainted because to get him to agree to anything before was really hard. And he's been home with me all the time, all day, and we sit outside and we talk and we look at the trees and look at the birds and all this, you know, and he's just sitting there and just taking it all in. And he says, I really do love Montana, you know, like the scenery that is behind me. I haven't heard him talk like this in years, you know, and he's just like we're saying, we're just allowing things to happen, right? So he's just allowing life to go on, and he's not fighting against the food or whatever, you know. It seems so hard because the first thing I think about is, oh my God, what am I going to make for him for dinner tonight? You know,
Right.
and I don't even have to do that anymore. He's just like comes in and says, what do we have for dinner? And I said, well, I can make a meat pie. And he goes, okay. You know, it's like, what?
Yeah.
No,
That's a great example.
I just feel like having been following this is so amazing because I would have been working myself into a frenzy and crying and, you know, pitching a fit and fighting, you know. I think that there would have been more fights going on or something, but as you keep saying, is to just allow everything to happen and just let it be. It then when you just sit back for a moment and you go, wow, did that really just happen that way? There was no fighting, no arguing, no yelling, screaming, pitching a fit, having, you know, to fight back against everything. He just said, okay.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that we've been wanting to happen for 40 years. And it's like, it's happening.
Yeah.
You know, it just,
Those are
like,
all
is it really,
pointers to it.
is it
right?
really that easy?
It is so easy. What's being, you know, shared here is the easiest thing in the world. It's so easy. It's so straightforward. But it also really does have to do with being able to step away from your character. You have to be, and you don't have to. You don't have to do anything, whatever. But it's literally impossible if you're still in the separated self to really experience this. So that you start to be are able to recognize this, Carol, and see it with your father and everything, kind of starts to, you know, this is what happens with people. You start to be able to, I've said this for many years, have that healthy objectivity so that you're like, you're not in the story itself. And then you start to pull away and you start to see that everything is just going to just allow everything to be, because it's going to be what it's going to be. You know what I mean? Even if your father was like, God damn it, I fucking don't want that or whatever, there's still an element of just let that be what it's going to be too. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Just allow it to be. Right. But the separated self doesn't wants everything its way. But I mean, I think that's a really good example of seeing how, you know, listen, this is not, I mean, ultimately what we're talking about here is not like a spiritual thing. It's really not. And so a lot of people come to this without going through their spiritual stuff or meditating or reading the Course in Miracles. A lot of people just come to this because it's so obvious and it just happens for them. Who knows? I don't know your father, but maybe that's kind of happening for him, where he's like, and it does happen when what we were saying, what Girl Rush was saying, this whole thing about I'm sick of my story, is that on some level you're just like sick of the fight, because the fight always has to do with the story somehow. So you're sick of the fight, you're sick of the thing, and so you're just like, sure, let's do that. That's great, whatever. Just allow it to happen. allowing everything, denying nothing. And it's the only thing that can allow or deny actually is the self, but it's even beyond all of that stuff. But these are all pointers towards it, obviously. That's a great
I
story,
just keep
Carol.
telling them that I'm just here to help you. You know, like
Sure.
it says in the
Of
course, I'm
course. I'm here to be truly
here to be
helpful.
truly helpful.
Mhm.
So I just,
As opposed to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
yeah.
What's the song? What's the song in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? Truly scrumptious. Does anyone know Chitty
That's
Chitty
her
Bang
name.
Bang?
That was her
Oh, I
name.
should know that by
That's
heart.
right. That's right. And the song is truly scrumptious. Anyway, I said anyway, truly helpful, truly scrumptious. Now you all know how old I am. Anyway, all of us are pretty
I'm
similar
older.
in that age.
You could have watched it yesterday for all I know.
I know, but I grew up with that. It's a
Yeah,
really,
me too.
oh my God, then you watch that movie again. God, you watch it again as an adult and you're like, first of all, it's like 25 hours long. It's like the longest fucking thing in the world. And you're like, this is really twisted and really long and really weird. And it's like the horrible man trying to kidnap the children. And then it's like, it's really weird. It's so, you're just like waiting for the car to fly. The car will fly, you know, so. Anyway,
How many triggers can they throw into a movie for a kid? Makes me, you know what I mean?
how many what?
Triggers can they put into a movie?
Oh my God, all over the place,
Yeah,
all over, tons.
I remember something that happened to my son. He was about 3 years old, maybe 4 at the time. He's at the top of a flight of stairs, and he started falling down the stairs. And as observing this, there was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't rush over there to catch him or anything. And I know oftentimes that the child will react to the parent's reaction.
Of
So like if
course.
I flip out, he'll flip out, you know?
Mm.
So I watch him and he like almost in slow motion, watch him tumble down the stairs. Boom, he gets to the bottom. He stands up, he steadies himself, kind of brushes himself up, and then goes along his merry way, you know? And the reason why I brought that up, it was when this journey kind of first started for me, it was almost like the ego was falling down the stairs. And it's like, am I the ego?
Yeah.
Am I the observer? Well, you know, and
It's so perfect.
kind of confusing, you know, and then
this
and
is
then you
about
just
free fall.
observe it. You just observe, you know, what happens, you know.
Yeah. It is complete free fall. That's the perfect example of that. I mean, really, it's the perfect example in so many ways, Casey, because what is being suggested here is completely, I used to do this all the time. It's this free fall. It's, you know, not the song, but it's the free, you really have to let go of you. You have to let go of the you, and you can't let go of the you. But when it starts to happen, it is a free falling experience.
Yes, that's like this, when you said surrender. It's
Yeah.
like you want to take control, but there's the surrender. Do you want to take control or do you want to surrender? You know what I mean? And there's this confusion. And if you just let it happen, what is.
But here's the rub, is that it's the separated self that's trying to surrender itself.
Yeah,
and it's not going to do
so
it.
So there's a confusion. You know what I mean?
Because it's not in an understanding. It's not in a getting it. It's not in a linear thought process at all.
Right. It's
an experiential, energetic something that's hard to explain. You can't explain. You can't explain it. But those words come close to it, and I think that analogy of your son going down the stairs is really perfect. And another part of that that's so perfect is that he didn't have a story about how horrible it was to go down the stairs, so he was just like, okay, that's what happened. Now I'm gonna go have a lollipop.
Exactly.
That's right. I mean, I think, God, Casey, I think that's so interesting and so great. That example of, and all of us here know that example of, if you freak out when a kid gets hurt, they freak out.
Yep.
If you're like, I mean, of course, not all parents or people know that. They freak out along with the kid, and then it exacerbates the whole thing. But if you can just look at, if you can start to have that objectivity to be like, this doesn't mean what I think it means.
Right.
Oh, right. It's the same. Like when a kid falls or a kid gets in an accident or does something, you know, the worst thing to do is like, oh my God, are you okay? Everything's going to be fine. You're going to be okay. Da, da, da. And then they're like, yeah, you know. And so for us in dealing with ourselves, you know, a lot of times, I mean, this is where people get, you know, have the anxiety issues or whatever, because they are the screaming parent that's screaming about themselves. Oh no, that can't happen. No, 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 no. But if you can step back for just a second instead and go, this is just what's happening.
Yep.
End of story, period, done.
Yeah.
Go ahead, what were we gonna say?
I was going to say, it was like what you said earlier, when you can allow everything,
Yeah.
everything. You see the kid falling down the stairs and you allow everything. You're not
And-
resisting anything.
Right. And let's push that further, because you trying to allow is one of the problems. Because
Yes,
you can't
yes.
allow.
Right, right. It's yeah, you're
Because
absolutely
allowing
right.
just is.
Right.
In
Right, right.
truth,
But
nature's not going, no thunderstorm, stop the thunderstorm. Nature's not going, stop having a baby. Da, 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 da. Nature's not saying, oh no, it's nighttime, I want it to be daytime. It's not doing that. It's just allowing
is-
itself to everything to
that's
just
it. Allowing
happen.
itself, allowing itself. Not
Yep.
me allowing, but watching it unfold, or
Totally. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
Chris says, and what of that character signed up to what? I think if that character signed up to experience that thing in human form, right? It's their human experience. I'll say this about that comment, Chris, is that the character signing up for an experience is a story. It's a story. It's kind of like the story of, we came here so we can be perfect, so we can go through all our trials and tribulations so that we can finally get to Godhead. I'm not saying that that's it, but it's a story on some level. I don't know if that makes sense, Chris. It's just it's just what's happening. There is no human form anyway. There's just life happening. Well, when you died, you had an experience. Okay. So that's what happened. Right? But it's a story. Oh my God, someone is blowing up my phone. Stop.
When you said that, I had to laugh because I realized
That said, that agreed.
part of my story was a story. And I was like, oh, shoot, I didn't even realize that that was a story with, you know, a similar story. Like, wow.
Yeah. It's all a story, man.
Yeah.
It's all a story. I wrote what I wrote today on Instagram. Everything is a story. Everything is a story. Everything is a story. Everything is a story. It's a story.
Yeah.
It's all a story. And the
Yeah.
separate self loves the story, because the separate self wants to identify with the story, because then it makes you separate, it makes you different, it makes you special. The whole thing in the Course of Miracles is about specialness. One of the most empowering parts of the Course of Miracles, if you ever study the Course of Miracles, is the whole section about specialness. And when you start to get that, you're going to start to get what we're talking about, because the individual self has to be special. It's not like anyone else. It has to have its own story, its own beginning, its own middle, its own end, its own tragedy, its own victimhood, its own successes, its own failures, and goes on and on and on. And it goes on and on. Because I'm special. I'm not like Chris. I'm not like Chris at all.
It's
Specialness
division,
has so much to do with it. What'd you say, Case?
divisionness.
Yeah, the separateness, the divisiveness.
Yeah.
Over and over and over.
What's that old saying? You're unique and special. You're special and unique, just like everyone. Well, if you're
Yeah.
unique like everyone, then nobody, you know what I mean? It's
Uh-huh.
like
Mhm.
trash.
The Course in Miracles says it like this. It says, everyone's special and no one's special. Which is very interesting. I kind of
Yeah.
like that too. Because everyone
Mhm.
is, I mean, having from a Course in Miracles point of view, remember there's all these pointers and all these things, but Course in Miracles is the thing that I know. And so the Course in Miracles would say, we're all having a highly individualized curriculum while we're experiencing the separated self. My separated self has a whole different curriculum than, Go Rush or
Right.
whatever. But it doesn't make mine better or worse or different. It's special, but it's not special at all. It's kind of like, when you really start to get that nothing is everything and everything is nothing. And what you're really trying to do is, you think you're trying to get something, but you're really trying to let go of everything. That's actually what you're really trying to do. And when you really get that, you're like, oh my God, I think I got to learn more. I got to read more. I got to be better. I got to. So you're trying to get something. But what you're really wanting is, is this state of complete letting go of all of that. Because that's all a false story of the self.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's hard, Chris. I'm sorry. I'm probably completely read it wrong, and so I'm sorry that I'm not getting what you're saying. Let me go back and read it, because I don't want you to think that I'm not hearing you. You said that's not what I meant, but okay. What if the character signed up to experience that thing in human form? The character signing up to experience the thing in the human form, I will stand by that statement, is a story, because we don't know that that's the truth. I mean, whatever. And when you died, you had an experience. Yep, you did. You had died and you had an experience. I said, yeah. That said, that agreed to all of it. Sure. You mean like allowing it all? Is that what I didn't get? That said, that agreed to all of it. That you accepted everything, and what we were talking about before about not denying anything, embracing it, allowing it, I think. And that's okay, really. I'm sorry, I just don't want to be misunderstood or whatever. My character is like, oh, whatever. All right, that's fine. It's all good. Okay. All right, friends, we're at the top of the hour. So anyone want to say or ask anything or contribute before we wrap up?
Thanks for having these group meetings, Max. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that you're all here. I really enjoy having these discussions. It's a lot of fun for me. I'm going to put in the chat the link to my donation page. So if you feel like you would like to make a donation, you can. You don't have to. And we'll be back next Thursday, same place. I think that there's a coming up, but I don't think it's next Thursday. I'm gonna have to change or have to skip a week or something. Tomorrow I'll be on Insight Timer again. I don't even know what we're talking about. Oh, tomorrow on Insight Timer we're talking about what if you weren't you, which I love. So you're welcome. All right, everybody. Okay, thanks again. Have a wonderful night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.